gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages.
Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the My Two Cents podcast, presented by and hosted by G2. I am G2. This is episode 260 of the podcast, and I would like to ask every single one of you, how are you doing? I'm hoping that everyone had a great and joyous Christmas, great and joyous Hanukkah, and as of right now, Kwanzaa is still going for the people that do celebrate Kwanzaa, so I'm hoping that everyone's enjoying their Kwanzaa as well. But altogether, I'm hoping that everyone has been enjoying their holiday. As we know, the holidays are wrapping up, which means New Year's is approaching. This is the last Sunday of 2025. So for today's episode, I'll be giving you guys a recap of some of the big stories that happened in 2025. But before I do that, I would like to say, as I've always been saying on my Sunday episodes, if you are dealing with stress, please try to lessen your stress as much as you can. Deal with the stress that you can handle. Don't try to put more on your plate. I know certain people like to put a lot on their plate to try to minimize someone else's plate, but don't do that. If you know you can be overwhelmed quick, do not try to add more onto your plate just to be a good person. No. Sometimes it needs to be said that you need to be selfish. And selfish is not always a bad thing. I know we like to say that selfish word as being a bad thing, but no. In life, you have to be selfish. In life, you have to think about oneself instead of always thinking about others. Now, when you do that, make sure that you are okay with what people are going to think of you. As long as you're okay with that, that's all that truly matters. But in life, you have to be comfortable with being selfish. And me, I am cool with that. I'm cool with being selfish. I'm cool with thinking about myself when it's time for it. I don't like to spread myself too thin, and I see a lot of people like to do that, which brings to a lot of people's demise, because when you have a lot of stress on your plate, guess what? It starts affecting you mentally. And then guess what happens? If you're affected mentally, it affects you physically. And if your physical being starts breaking down, guess what? You are being put into the grave earlier than expected. And I don't want that to be the case for a lot of people, but that usually happens. So if there's anything that you do take away from me, from this episode, the last episode of the Sunday episode for 2025, please take away that I do not want you guys to stress yourself out. Handle the stress that you can manage, and anything else, hey, let it be. It's above you. Okay? Now, with that being said, since we are on the last day last Sunday of 2025, let me get on to your National Food Days of the Week as we end out 2025 going into 2026. We have nothing for December 28th, which is today. So moving on to December 29th, it is Pepper Pot Day. December 30th will be Bicarbonated Soda Day, as well as Bacon Day. And then on New Year's Eve, it is Champagne Day, so please drink responsibly. Then on January 1st, 2026, we have Bloody Martini Day, as well as Black Eyed Pea Day. Please drink responsibly there as well. January the 2nd will be Cream Puff Day, as well as Buffet Day. And then to round us out, January the 3rd will be Chocolate Covered Cherry Day. So with that, that's your National Food Days of the Week. And now it's time for me to move over into basically recapping what happened in 2025. Now, in 2025, we've experienced a lot of losses. And this is usually the part of the program where I go into the condolence portion of the show, which I will be going into it. But I would like to say, man, we took a lot of hits. I'm talking about people in the entertainment field. They took a lot of hits this year. But I want to start off with the latest one. There was a competitor in Big Brother. She was 35. Her name was Mickey Lee. Has come out that she died of food complications. The family would put out an Instagram post with profound sadness. The family of Mickey Lee announces her transition on Christmas in the early evening. Mickey captured the hearts of audiences nationwide through her appearance on Big Brother, where her athleticism, strength, and spirit left a lasting impression on fans and fellow castmates. She will be remembered for the joy she brought into the lives of so many and for the genuine connections she formed both on and off the screen. The host of Big Brother, Julie, will put out an Instagram message on Friday in which she shared a photo of herself with Lee. 2 months ago, I interviewed Mickey Lee on God 101. That's when she revealed to me that she was born with a hole in her heart, and as an adult, she survived an ATV accident that should have killed her, but God kept her alive. Last night, God brought her home. Rest in peace, Mickey. I will see you again on the other side in eternity. I pray the good Lord comforts and heals your family and loved ones as we grieve your passing. Amen. Now, as I said, it came out that she was dealing with a series of cardiac arrests following complications from the flu. The family would set up a GoFundMe, so if you want to do that, go ahead. But again, it is towards the end of the year. We're not out of the woods yet, but a lot of people are already diving out of here. But that's just one person that's latest of the celebrity branch tree of people that dipped out of this planet in 2025. But I just want to read you off some of the names that happened to also leave this planet in 2025 in the entertainment field. David Lynch, storied filmmaker. He died at the age of 78 in January earlier this year. Roberta Flack, she passed away at the age of 88 in February. Gene Hackman, as we know, him and his wife both passed away this year, which was very, very crazy when we found out about them passing away, and their bodies have already been there in the home, and the police had to do a wellness checkup, and then we start getting all the diagnosis about Gene Hackman and his wife, which again, sad travesty that happened there. Another one, Michelle Trachtenberg. I'm hoping I'm saying her last name right, but she was in Gossip Girl, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Harriet the Spy. She died on February the 26th, at the age of 39. And again, that one was a shock to everybody because, again, I remember seeing her face from time to time whenever I flicked the television channels, whenever you used to do it on cable. And she was someone that I always found as a pretty lady, but again, it was just shocking whenever I saw her face. I was like, that's great. She passed away at 39. That's pretty young, but again, anything can happen at any time. Angie Stone, she passed away as well. Car crash, as we know, on March 1st, at the age of 63. D'Angelo passed away later in the year. And that, again, was another one that hurt the music community right there. Val Kilmer passed away, age of 65, April 1st. That one hit a lot of people in the film industry as well. Sly Stone, musician, passed away. Brian Wilson. The list goes on and on. Anne Burrell, that one really shocked me because, again, I do a lot of cooking in my household. And again, whenever you turn on the Food Network, if you didn't see Guy Fieri, you at least would see Anne Burrell in some spot. And I'll say this, if you didn't see Guy, if you didn't see Bobby Flay, Anne Burrell was on some of the Food Network shows that would be airing if you didn't see Guy or Bobby Flay on there. So when the passing of Anne Burrell happened, I was shocked. A lot of people were shocked in that as well. Same thing going on with Malcolm Jamal Warner. Him passing away caught everybody by surprise. Everybody was incredibly shocked at his passing. And again, he passed away due to drowning in Costa Rica. Just trying to, if I'm not mistaken, he was swept away by a current. And that was not something that you want to hear about. And if I'm not mistaken, he was on a family trip when that happened. So for the family to get the notification that their father and husband passed away in the ocean, that was another one that hit not only the family heart, but also entertainment heart as well. Ozzy Osbourne, another guy, passed away this year as well. Passed away at the age of 76, just after weeks before playing in his final show with his band Black Sabbath. And again, Ozzy Osbourne, he wasn't in the greatest state whenever you always see him in interviews talking, but he was there. He was still able to say something. But him passing away, that was a thing that hit the music industry there. Diane Keaton, that one shocked people as well. Passed away at the age of 79. Again, another actress that hit people pretty hard to see her pass away. You had Jimmy Cliff pass away. We just, had the passing, I believe, 2 weeks ago of Rob Reiner and his wife. And again, there's still investigation going into that about the son's part in that. But again, their son going to be on trial for that. But again, Rob Reiner and his wife passing away. There's so many people and more, by the way. If I didn't cover any more people, my guy that was on General Hospital, he played Luke. He passed away this year as well. I'm pretty sure there's another person that passed away this year from General Hospital. The lady that played Monica, I believe she passed away this year as well, too. But a lot of people, if you just go down the list of 2025, just type it in, of celebrities that passed away in 2025, which, again, we're not out of the woods yet. A lot of people really got took out in 2025, especially if you are a celebrity. And, again, life is not always guaranteed. Life is something that you should hold on to and try to make memories when you can. I'm not just saying on a whim, just go out there and start doing something. No. You can do that sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes you are able to do that and you'll be a success. Sometimes you do it and it'll be a complete failure and you'll wonder, why did I do that? So what I'm saying is just appreciate life. I understand every day is going to come with its own set of issues, set of problems, especially when you have to deal with human beings like everybody has to deal with. However, just know that you could have been in the ground and your family could have been mourning you today. As long as you're alive, breathing air, just take in the day and be gracious of that opportunity. I understand, again, it's easy to be upset every single day. Trust me, I can understand that. And I get it. But try not to be. Try to just take one day at a time. Take one moment at a time. Take 1 hour at a time. And again, realize that you're here, alive, breathing, instead of in the ground and your family mourning you. Okay? So again, I want to give condolences to all of the people that we lost this year in 2025 so far. Because again, 2025 isn't over yet. I'm pretty sure that we're still going to have a couple more people dipping out before 2025 is over, which will be sad. But that's the beast of life. Everybody, every single day. One person will pass away. Somebody will be born every single day. But again, just try to appreciate life as much as you can. And again, condolences to everyone that passed away this year, whether you're in the entertainment field or just people out here in your regular 9-to-5s. Just want to give my condolences to everyone there. Now, moving off of that, before I get into a recapping of some of the big news stories that happened this year, I do want to read off one story that did particularly bother me. And it's the story that happened on Monday. NBC News would write up about it in an article. They would say that Florida man kills wife and then himself after argument over Monday Night Football, authorities would say. In an article, it would read, a Florida man fatally shot his wife, critically wounded his stepdaughter, and then killed himself after the parents argued over changing the channel for Monday Night Football, authorities said. Jason Kinney, 47, had been watching his favorite team, the 49ers, beat the Colts when his wife, 38-year-old Crystal Kinney, told him that she did not want to watch football anymore, according to a statement from the police. Jason had been drinking during that evening in Lakeland, and about 11 p.m. when the game was well in hands for the 49ers, an argument began when the wife suggested they watch something else on TV, and the argument got really heavy The sheriff Woodward told reporters. Crystal Kinney told her son to go to the neighbor and call 911. And as the boy was leaving the house, he heard a gunshot. Responding deputies found Crystal Kinney's body and her critically wounded 13-year-old daughter, officials said. Deputies also found the couple's baby girl asleep in her crib unharmed. The 13-year-old wasn't killed. Jason shot her twice and intended to kill her. The girl was shot in the face but is suspected to survive, had the strength to speak to investigators. Continuing on in the article, when the deputies tracked down the shooter at his late father's home, they heard a single gunshot come from the property's shed. Back at the couple's house, deputies found an undated note from Crystal Kinney telling her husband, "You know you're drinking, you're using cocaine again." The deputy sheriff, well, not deputy, but the sheriff said, quoting the note, "This is not the way the family should be. You need God." Deputies cannot determine when the note was written, but I'm pretty sure if they said that, or at least read that note, they're indicating that it was probably sometime soon, not a older note. This is probably a more recently type note here. Anyway, long story less long. The man killed himself. He ended up killing his wife. The 13-year-old girl, she is right now, I believe she's in a hospital, still healing up. But I bring this news topic to talk about this. In the year 2026, I don't want to see no more of this. I'm hoping that in 2026, there will be less incidences of a couple doing something stupid to one another, whether it be a shooting like this, or a stabbing, or running the other one over, or I don't know, just physicality. I don't want to see no more or read any more incidents like this going into 2026, because it does nobody any good. Nobody. Because think about this. This story, you have a father with his wife and presumably his stepkids, the son and daughter, with their baby sister sleeping. The father's drinking, watching football, excited. The wife's probably aggravated, as was already said, and just tired of hearing him saying she wants to turn this now. And the father, being drunk, can't control himself. He gets into an argument with his wife, and the kids have to see that. Now imagine how many times the kids have seen their mom arguing with the guy that they just married, don't know the relationship with the dude. Just want to make that perfectly clear. But just imagine how many times they've seen that argument alone. Because it's not their first time. It's not their second time. It's probably about their umpteenth time seeing that, and they're probably sick and tired of it. But I digress. But this time it gets to a point where the mom has to tell her son, go to the neighbors to call 911. So the mom already knew something was going to go down and didn't want her son to try to intervene in physicality, but go over and try to get some help. I wish that the sister would have followed him, but it is what it is in that. All this could have been avoided. All of it. If the husband didn't drink, that could have happened. People could have said, well, the wife could have just went to another room. Could have did that too. There's just different possibilities this thing could have went where people still lived right now. But the kid, that's not the case. A mom is gone, so you have her children growing up without a mom and dad, because the little girl, the baby, will never know who her mom and her dad is. So she has to grow up without a mom and dad. But just imagine the 13-year-old that got shot. She will have to live with the scars physically and mentally for the rest of her life. And the son who will have to live with the trauma mentally, and he will probably be guessing in his life, because again, you've seen it off of television, you've seen it off of movies, about how whenever someone goes through something traumatic like that, and they will always question themselves, even at a young age, going up to being adulthood, maybe I could have done something if I was there. maybe if I didn't run and try to call 911, maybe I could have took the gun or something like that. Again, this is all the stuff that usually happens when kids think about things like this. And that's the sad thing. The kid will always be thinking about that. And again, I do hope that the children do get some type of psychiatric help when they are of age to really properly grasp and really dig deep and handle something heavy like this. I do hope that they get some type of psychiatric help when the time comes. But as of right now, I'm hoping that they're just with relatives that they do love and that do love them and are loyal to those kids and will raise them up to be citizens in this very, very nasty world and not treat them terribly. That's what I am hoping for these children. So I just bring this up to say that in 2026, if you're in a volatile situation, please try to step out of that, or please try to figure out ways where you know you're about to be upset and you can try to veer off from that, whether it be walking away out the room or going into your car and getting a drive or taking a walk or something else instead of just being upset. Because when people get upset, they don't lead with logic. Logic is not the first thing that they follow up with. They follow with their emotion, which is anger, and that is never a very good thing. So again, 2026, I don't want to read or see any more news articles like this, but that's just me thinking it. I'm going to hope that it doesn't happen, or if it does, I'm hoping not to a big amount. You know what I mean? Because I'm pretty sure there was a lot of that this year. And again, going into 2026, I don't want to see that no more. Moving off of that, now let me get into some of the big news stories, or at least recap some of the big news stories that happened in 2025. And for me, there was a lot, but I had to look. God, I got tongue tied there. I had to look up some news stories as well, just to make sure, because man, 2025 came like a freight train in a lot of areas. More or less news, because again, news might be hot one moment, certain news articles stick for a whole entire week, might even stick for 2 weeks, might have a lasting effect, but usually news only is important for like 1 or 2 days, and then we move off to the next thing, because the world is constantly revolving, constantly going. And again, that's how it was in 2025. A lot of news came out this year that was important. And the first thing I do want to make mention of was technically last year on New Year's Day. A man drove his truck into Bourbon Street, killing 14 people and injuring 57 people. That was something that no one expected, especially whenever you have New Year's and New Year's Day. People are out. People are trying to just enjoy themselves on New Year's Eve, enjoy the whole timing down of 10 to 1, screaming out the whole Happy New Year's deal. But for someone to just get in their car and just run over people, again, not really something that people expect. But that's also something that should be on people's minds. If you're going out this New Year's Eve, if you're going out to a big open area, please do not get yourself into a situation where someone can more likely get in their vehicle and do something to you. Please. Because again, we've already had that. Just know where you're going and just know your surroundings, please. Another thing that happened early this year, was the California fires. Now, this happened in the Palisades and Easton Fire. I mean, they say it started on January 7th, but I just know it happened in January. The fire destroyed more than 16,000 structures, burned tens of thousands of acres in the Pacific Palisades, killed 29 people, and it raised concerns about climate change. But that was something that happened, that was a big talking point for people when it first happened. Me, I didn't really consider it a big talking point. I mean, I consider it one technically, but not so much because California, and I don't mean to say this in a negativity type of way, California is a place that is known for constantly being on fire. Now, do I know why? No, I'm not a California resident. I've never been to California, so I can't speak on that. I can only say something as a guy that's always watching the news. Every single year, without fail, there will be a fire in California. And I say this again, without fail, there will be a fire in California every single year. And for me, I can't understand why people would decide to live in a fire hazard state like California. I can't. I'm not tripping on anybody that's grandfathered or grandparent into a location and they're like, hey, I ain't trying to give up this home because, hey, we're grandfathered in. Great, cool. For the people that are just wanting to move to California, though, I have that big question of why. You guys know there's fires every single year in California. If you didn't, well, let me put on to you. There's fires every single year. Now, there might not be fires like it happened early in the year, like in January. That's a bizarre one. I will give them that. But every single summer without fail, there is a fire in California. And again, it just constantly has me playing this message. Why? Why would you decide to live there? I understand people want to go out there and try to live the California dream, try to make it out there in entertainment. But dog, there's other places where you can do that at. If I'm not mistaken, Texas is supposed to be another hotbed where people are trying to make it out there. People from California are moving to Texas. That was the last thing that I did know about. So there's places in Texas where is a new hotbed that people are trying to move there too and try to do stuff there. Last time I checked. I know Florida is always a place where people are trying to just go there, whether you're in a music scene or sometimes even entertainment business. You go there and try to make yourself out there in Florida. Atlanta. Atlanta is another one. Black Atlanta. Black Hollywood, they like to call it. But Atlanta is another spot where people try to make it out in the entertainment industry. So I don't understand that one. New York, I understand why it's, again, the Mecca, Times Square, all of that. I get it. But it's always that rent. The rent thing and the little bit of storage that they give you. That's the stuff that would just make me question, like, why would I want to move to New York? If you want to move in the Northeast, I would say probably pick up a property or at least a rental spot, probably in somewhere like a Connecticut or somewhere like a New Jersey or somewhere like in that area that's close to New York that you can take a train or a bus to get from your spot to New York. Now, you will have to get up early to go to where you got to go, but you'll still be able to get to New York and still try to get your dreams to manifest. That's if I was going into that. But again, man, there's other places to go to if you want to try to make it out in the entertainment industry instead of going to California, where again, I'm not letting this off. There's always fires every single, by God, year. So again, that was another big story that happened this year in which, again, people in California, or at least I say the West Coast, which is California and even Washington, but more Cali, you've been getting your butt kicked this year because you had the wildfires January, you had fires in summertime. Seattle, I want to say it was I just covered this a couple episodes ago where they just had like a big old flooding incident, over there, and people had to evacuate their homes from Seattle. That happened there. And now, if I'm not mistaken, there is some type of flooding over there in California now. So California, you've been getting smacked all year round. So again, just want to say this, going into 2026, people that are going to be graduating and trying to move to California, I would just say, just do your research, do your due diligence to know what's going down, what's happening, and please just keep yourself well informed, all right? Because I don't want people to go there and then they get trapped and then they're like, oh, I got tricked. No, you didn't. You just didn't do your research and you didn't properly look into what really happens in California, at least weather-wise and all of that stuff. That's all I will say to that. But again, fires in California, that was a big story to happen this year. We all know the presidential term started once again for Donald Trump. He was now in his second term now. And this second term so far has been absolutely nuts because we had, since Donald Trump has began his second term, we've had more, I would like to say, quote unquote, illegals or migrants, however you want to call it, get literally captured by the ICE and get deported out of here. And I don't have the stats right up to me, but I can just remember talking about it when this thing first happened, when he first got put back into office for the second term. He was just sweeping mugs out of here. And they said this was in like the 5 digits within the first, God, if I remember, like 3 months. He was already back into office and he already got like 5 digits worth of people out of here. And I was like, yo, he really meant that. When he really said, yo, we're going to get them out of here, he really meant that. And again, that happened to start off the second term running. Then we had the DOGE, the whole Department of Government Efficiency that was led by Elon Musk, which got heavily scrutinized by a lot of people, myself included, because I was like, why is Elon Musk a guy leading up a division? How is he? That didn't make sense to me, which, hey, okay, we're going with it and we're going to see where this goes. And I'm reading this. It said by March, DOGE had fired 260,000 federal workers. High-profile cuts includes the dismantle of the U.S. Agency for International Development and slashes across the Department of Education and National Institutes of Health, among others, which is still feeling the effects today, by the way, because the Department of Education is still constantly taking hits, and they've been taking hits throughout the whole year. So that's not all that I believe that happened this year, at least over in the government situation. We just got done a couple months ago experiencing the government shutdown, which they said this is the longest government shutdown that's happened in the U.S. history, which, again, salute to all the government workers that were out there working, not knowing when they were going to get their next check. And again, I would love, and I probably want to do some research into this when I do have free time, to look into and see what jobs got back pay for those days that the government was down and that they didn't get paid. I would love to know what jobs got back pay, what jobs didn't get back pay. I would love to, because that would indicate to me whenever the next government shutdown happens, because there will be one, what jobs you at least want to look at and say, okay, I need to handle these people with a little bit more care than necessarily the rest, which I think you should carry or handle everyone with some type of care. But there's certain people who, in certain jobs, that are able to stand stress as long as they're getting paid. But then when they're not, then the gloves come off and then they're just like, okay, I don't care about this job. And they're really ready to risk it all. While certain people, they're not doing that. Even if they're getting a check or not getting a check, they say, yep, we're not doing it. I'm not doing that. I'm good. Like, there's just certain jobs you need to look at. That's all I'm going to say. But longest government shutdown that we had in U.S. history, obviously the Epstein files at the beginning of his being brought into office, that was the first thing that people were really calling for. Not just, obviously, ICE and people getting put out of America. His base and the rest of the people were asking for the Epstein files to be released. And at first, he was being run on talking about releasing the Epstein files. Cool. Then when he gets into office, he starts backing down, and his administration starts backing down, saying there's no such thing as the Epstein's files. They don't exist. They will try to use some type of jargon to try to discredit everyone's knowledge, to the point that Trump will say, what are people talking about Epstein files? people are still going on about this thing. Dog, you ran on that. People will say that and constantly have to remember, like, yo, dog, you do remember you ran on that, right? To the point where they put out a little bit, but not really too much. And people were really poking and prodding and trying to say, hey, yo, where are the real Epstein files at? Where are they at? To now, by the end of this year, as I'm recording this, more, and I mean now actual Epstein files, whether it be documentation, emails, photos that the government have about Epstein and his whole thing is starting to slowly unravel out to the people. Now, things have been redacted, as we've seen with some of the paper work that came out, heavy redacted in certain paperwork. But now certain paperwork, not so much heavy, because people have figured out ways to kind of unblock that redactedness. The government just decided to say, screw it, we're going to redact some stuff, but throw it all out there to the people. At least some of it that they can protect themselves with. But yeah, Epstein's files are slowly starting to be unraveled, which I am happy about. But it does bring me to question this. With the files coming out, I do have to ask, what is going to happen to the people that were in those documentation? What's going to happen to Donald Trump? We all know he was in those files. We all know he was in paperwork. We all know he was in photos. Again, he is not being accused of anything, but we know once people start really digging into it, really start doing their due diligence, people are going to start putting the pieces and puzzle together, and they will say whether Trump did or didn't. But let's play the game of if Trump did do something. Is the government going to be able to actually prosecute the president? I say no. I think he's still going to be in that chair because there are going to be dark forces at hand, which there's already been dark forces that have been behind Trump this whole entire time as he's been in the seat the second go around. There's going to be forces that's going to say, yo, you know you ain't touching him. Keep your hand off of Trump. Keep your hand off of our guy as we do what we got to do and shape the government into our way and shape the world, technically, into the way we wanted it to be shaped. So I don't think Trump's technically being touched until maybe, and I'll say maybe, he's out of office. And then it's still going to be a slim maybe for me. He'll actually get prosecuted. That's only if he doesn't already either A, stepping down, and they have some provision there saying if he steps down, he won't get prosecuted, or either B, and I don't mean to say this like this, but it could happen. Somebody happened to take Trump out. Now, again, anything can happen. I'm not calling for it, but we've seen crazy things happen in 2025. Who's to say 2026 can't happen? That can't happen. Again, I'm not calling for it, but it could. But yeah, Trump name has already been put into Epstein's files, as we already know. Bill Clinton, we already knew his name was in that. We're trying to see if more people of the Clintons are in that. I want to see who other than just political people, what type of big, powerful celebrity or big, powerful people in finance or people in just in the big, powerful world. Who else was down there and who else did some nasty stuff and how that will bite them in their rear end when it fully comes out to play. Well, those people get arrested and get put on trial. See, those are the questions I want to know. I think a lot of people should want to know that one because, again, this is something that we all been asking for the files to be released, but we'll wait and see when it officially happens and people start doing their due diligence and look through all that. But that was something that happened this year as well. The Trump tariffs, the tariffs on imports from China, imports from Canada, and different other parts of the world, which we have businesses with. The tariffs, that hit hard on people. That was another thing that happened this year under the blanket, or shall I say the watch of this new kind of old but really new regime of Trump now. Currently, Trump putting his name on the Kennedy Center. Trump putting his name on just things is crazy talk, because I think you got to go through Congress and all these different steps of government procedure to do it, but they just like, nah, we're giving them a full pass to do it, which is crazy, but hey, it is what it is. But Trump putting his name on buildings, putting his name on ships. Trump even decided to mess up the White House, and he wants to put in a ballroom in there. Again, man, 2025, dog. Trump has really been doing things that has been really questionable, but hey, that's what's happened when you become the president of the United States and you got backers backing you. So that's another thing that happened this year. Is there anything else, at least in government news stand-wise, that happened this year? Obviously, the Russian-Ukraine war continuously happening. The war that happened in Gaza with Israel and Palestine, that stuff happened. And I remember, if I'm not mistaken, sometime in this year, they did at least try to have some type of ceasefire between Israel and Gaza. And if I'm not mistaken, as of right now, that ceasefire is still going through, and I believe they do have a peace plan, even though it has been shaky. But there still has been no, from my remembrance and looking back on it, there's been no one that's broken the ceasefire completely and like disrupted the peace plan. So we're at least at a standstill with Israel and Gaza, Palestine, all that, while Russia and Ukraine, they're still going back at it. Hopefully in 2026, they'll be able to end that. Oh yes, how can I forget that? The deployment of National Guard into different cities in the United States, which is absolutely ludicrous. And I said that was ludicrous. That happened this year as well, as Trump said that he's trying to, clean up violent cities and the immigration that's happening in these cities as well, which, all above my pay grade, but I think is all just a fallacy. I think he did that just to, again, put his knee, or don't want to say that, but just put his thumb on people's heads just to say that he could do it as the president, which again, if I'm not mistaken, you've got to go through governmental hoops to do that. But again, with him being the president, he was able to do so. So again, you had that happened this year as well. I think all of that happened this year. Oh yes, I gotta say it because again, it goes technically into government because now you see people in the political space playing upon it. The assassination of Charlie Kirk. Again, didn't know homeboy like that, but once that happened, that was the name on people's lips for the next, God, first it was, first 2 weeks, and from September, it has been lingering as a little thin linger in the governmental space where people will, once in a blue moon, bring up Charlie Kirk's name and this and that. And again, dog, I didn't know homeboy like that. I didn't. Again, I told you when this first happened, I only knew homeboy from memes people would post of his face and the little clip that I saw of him doing the whole little video of him versus a group of people in a sit down type of debate for a couple seconds. And the girl kind of made mention of his smile, saying his smile was creepy. Again, I didn't know homeboy. I didn't. But I know him now. Let's put it that way. So again, the assassination of Kirk, that's been a thing that's been on the cusp of a lot of people's lips in government. But yeah, I just think that's about everything technically that happened in government news this year. So with that, that's about everything in government. What else happened that was big this year, at least in my eyes? The Shannon Sharp incident that happened this year, early this year, where him and the woman that he was messing with, big age difference. I believe he was in his 50s, she was in her early 20s, and she had made the claim that Shannon Sharp assaulted her. And again, Shannon Sharp, at this time, he was signed to ESPN. He was doing First Take with Shannon Sharp. And at that point, when that came out, ESPN decided to sit Shannon Sharp down. And you know how the internet works. People start bringing up the Cat Williams interview and bringing up the Monique interview, basically saying that Shannon Sharp got foretold of what could happen to him because in the Cat Williams interview, he talked about how he's afraid of white women and how they can basically take down your career. And then you have Monique, who talked about how Shannon Sharp needs a woman about his age, not some little young girl. And again, you saw what happened there. Shannon Sharp went through the whole, not going to say the law, because he didn't do a trial, but he did end up settling with the woman. He settled with her. Shannon Sharp lost his job. ESPN stepped away from Shannon. So now Shannon Sharp is just doing this whole nightcap thing with Chad Ochocinco. And yeah, Shannon Sharp lost money from that. And again, that's just a shame. She will always have her side. He will always have his side. But that's, again, just something I think people need to take away from that is mess around with people your age. Don't mess around with someone younger than you if you are an older gentleman and or woman. Because I'm not going to try to say this like this, but I haven't seen, or at least I don't remember, of a older woman being accused of assaulting a younger man. If it has happened, it has not come out to the frequency at which it does whenever a man that's older, or shall we say in power, has been called to the carpet from a woman. And now, again, you'll never know if he did or she did assault that person, whatever the case may be. You can only just go by what's been said. But my train of thought is when you are someone in two ways. For the Shannon Sharp incident, if you're an older gentleman, try to at least get with someone within your age range. If you're in your 50s, like say you're 55, date someone that's probably like the lowest you can get, probably 40, 45. I would say that. You know, that type of ballpark area. Just stay within that ballpark area. Don't go to your even 30 or 25 if you're a 50-year-old man. Don't do that. Because again, you are messing around with the dynamic. You are about to set off a couple of things that could probably kill your career and hurt you down the line. For women, I'm not so certain. I don't think there's a lot of studies that's been out there for the women situation whenever you have an older woman mess around with a younger guy. There's not too much studies on that, at least for reputational wise. We've seen it happen with men. So that's one for that. And two, if you are a man that's in a position of power and you're messing around with a woman that's underneath you, and we had two incidents of that this year. One from the Coldplay incident where you had the astronomer, I believe he was CEO at the time, messing around with the woman in charge in HR that was leading HR, I believe. They had that whole Coldplay incident. They got popped on the screen there, kiss cam, and again, the famous incident of her ducking down, homeboy turning around. I mean, just it is what it is with that. And then just recently, we had the coach from Michigan, the Michigan University of Michigan State college coach. Him getting his whole career getting ruined because he was in a position of power, messing around with one of his underlings. And again, they were in a relationship last time that I made mention of this. Was they were in a relationship for 2 years, 2022 to 2024, must have took a break, got back with one another in 2025, then they took a break there again, which will be their ultimate break, which then led to her going to the administration, saying, hey, I was in a relationship with him because they were investigating that, and then led to homeboy doing all the other big crash outs that he did, going to her home, blaming her, talking about getting a butter knife, saying that he's going to end himself, which didn't happen. But ultimately, he ends up getting fired. Homeboy from Astronomer, he ends up stepping down from his position there. Same thing with the woman. She ended up stepping down too from her position there. But again, if you are in a position of power, do not mess with your underlings. That's one thing you shouldn't do. I believe in that wholeheartedly myself. Do not crap where you eat. That's one. And two, if you are married and if you're in a position, again, of power, and you're about to mess with someone that's underneath you, don't do it. Still, talk to your married spouse, whether you're a man or a woman. But again, since this was a scenario where it was a man, if you are a man, you're about to mess around on your wife, which again, you should not do. But if you think you're about to, talk to her. Tell her, hey, I'm feeling some type of urges here. I need to get this out. If I can't sleep with you, I'm about to do something outside of the marriage. I hope that it doesn't kill our marriage because I just need to release this, whatever the case may be. And then you and her can set down ground rules for yourself and or her. If she feels that if you're going to do it, well, then she needs to do it too. Again, have those uncomfortable conversations before any of that crap happens. But who's to say? Again, this is just me and my brain thinking this and saying this quite literally out loud. But again, man, we've seen those 3 incidences of quite literally, and I don't mean to make this sound bad, but the man gets smacked while technically the woman's kind of okay. Well, the astronomer woman, not so much. She quit her job, even though she said that the company wanted her to stay there. And now she's saying she can't get hired nowhere else. But you get my point. 2 out of the 3 women, they were up in the instance after the fact, while the men were not. So just, again, those were incidences that happened this year. Another incident that happened this year was what? I'm looking at my list of topics that happened this year. Otani's interpreter. He went up to jail this year. Shohei Otani's interpreter, which again, that was homeboy that placed a lot of bets on baseball, which again, I don't think should be illegal. I understand why you're not supposed to bet or why the establishment did it, because they don't want you to end up throwing games or whatever the case may be, because they want to keep the game pure if you're a player. But that's already passed away. Is that keeping the game pure, the betting system, that's been long gone, and keeping the game pure is no longer such a thing anymore. So Shohei Otani's interpreter going to jail, I felt that was a big topic that happened this year. Another one that I didn't really touch on, but apparently got touched on in the NBA world was the Clippers scandal. What's homeboy's name? Paulo Torre. I believe he did a whole report on the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard, how they got Kawhi and how Kawhi was still technically kind of getting more money around the NBA's cap sizing from the Clippers. So again, that was another thing, which again, they want to say you want to keep the NBA pure. But again, the NBA isn't pure, bro. Sports isn't pure. And we still had the whole case of Chauncey Billups and a couple of NBA players. They got nabbed up with some couple of Italian mafia members. And I believe it was because betting on the game as well. So again, sports betting is a part of the way of America now. It's been that way, and I feel that sports inside the system, they know that, but I think they just want to kind of put someone as the face and say, yo, you can't do this, because if you do, you're going to end up like these guys, and you're going to face the same penalties that these guys face. Because again, we have to set a example. But again, those are topics that happened this year. What else happened? Speaking of NBA, Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James. That happened earlier this year. Stephen A. Smith got a new contract, I believe, from ABC, ESPN. Either way, he signed another contract with them this year. He goes to the Lakers game, and we get the LeBron James going over to Stephen A. And that was a part of the internet talking point for a couple of days. And then it became a talking point months later because Stephen A. did podcast after podcast talking about it, which he should be able to because he's a sports media personality. But that's another one. Going into 2026, I don't want to see none of that. If you guys got a problem with Stephen A. Smith, make it known, one. And then two, go up to him like a man and just talk to him. You guys are not going to be fighting with him. And once again, excuse me, you're not going to be going up to him and trying to fight with homeboy. You know you're not. That was dumb. That was all dumb. If you got a problem with him, go up to him, say what your problem is. I'm pretty sure he'll be willing to hear it out because Stephen A is all about making content. So go to him, talk to him, say your piece to him. If you hate him, say I hate you for this reason and have that dialogue. And if you guys can actually come to agreement where, hey man, I might not rock with you, you don't rock with me, we don't got to talk about one another, and we can just make that a rule. I don't have to say your name outside of you playing like garbage or you playing well, then that's fine. Like, you guys can talk like that. I think that's capable and easy to be done. But again, that was something that happened earlier in the years, at least in the sports world. Another thing that happened in the sports world, but going on to NFL, Super Bowl time, Kendrick Lamar and his Super Bowl performance, which then pivot off into the Drake UMG lawsuit. I believe at that point, I'm not certain if Drake was already suing UMG or that was literally the tipping point where Drake said, oh no, I'm suing y'all now. Because I know Kendrick couldn't say certified pedophile in his thing. He had to bleep that out and he put like yelling in the performance for that. But again, that was another thing that was highly talked about for days after Kendrick Lamar's performance at the Super Bowl, which again, great Super Bowl performance, straight up hip hop there. And also that came off the back of Kendrick Lamar just having a great Grammy. He cashed in heavy Grammy season that year. I think he won almost every award that he was nominated for that this year in the Grammys. After already having a superb 2024, where again, had the beef with Drake, came out on top, I'll straight up say it, a classic album of GNX, which I will play to this day. Yes, there'll be certain skips, but not too many. But GNX classic album. I mean, Kendrick Lamar had a nice 2024, which then had a cap at the beginning of 2025, which was great to me. Which then led, as I already said, the UMG lawsuit with Drake. Drake trying to sue UMG because of the Kendrick Lamar thing, which led into, I want to say by the middle of the year, August, maybe, UMG got, no, it wasn't August, maybe, but later in the year, 2025, the lawsuit between Drake and UMG, that got kicked out. The court said, yo, dog, you tripping, you bugging. I listened to all the tapes between yourself and Mr. Lamar, and they said everything was all within the perimeters. The battle was the battle. You end up losing that. You can't try to sue for that now. And UMG, they did their business as the industry. They did their business as the record label. So, too bad, so sad. We're dismissing your case. So Drake took another L, not just in the battle rap community or the rapping community itself, but in the legal standpoint. So again, that was another thing that happened this year that got a big talking point. How did I miss this one? The new Pope. The new Pope, he was chosen this year. Previously, I want to say Pope, Francis? Pope Francis, he passed away. I want to say that was homeboy's name. But the last Pope ended up passing. We end up getting a new Pope this year. I believe his name is Pope Leo, if I'm not mistaken. Which I was like, his name is Robert Francis, but the last Pope was named Pope Francis, but now you want to call yourself Leo the 14th. Again, that whole thing I don't get with the Pope naming business. Not my bag. Not of the Catholic situation of that. I believe in God. I believe in higher power. All that good stuff. But that I ain't really too touching on. But we got a new Pope being chosen. And it's the first American Pope. Which, congratulations to them. And that was another, technically, a win for America there. So congrats to America for that. What else happened this year that was big? The Diddy documentary. and also the Diddy trial. So you got to go with Diddy trial, then Diddy doc. Diddy trial happened, probably the beginning to middle portion of the year. And you had testimony from Cassie, you had testimony from former bandmates of Puff. Kid Cudi went up there to testify, all to say that Puff got 50 months to be in prison, which I believe he'll probably be getting out, if not late 2026, probably early 2027, if I'm going to be honest with you, for good behavior. Because there is a such thing. People do get out for good behavior. He ain't doing all 50 months. That ain't happening. So that happened in 2025. And then just, if not last month, about a month and a half ago, Netflix popped the whole Diddy documentary that 50 Cent was really pushing, in which everybody watched that. Whether you knew about Puff because of being in the rap community, or you just happen to know about Puff because of, obviously, him being arrested and his case and his trial being fodder for the news late last year going into this year, you had to watch the doc. You had to watch the docuseries on Netflix, where people came away with a lot of information. If you didn't know about Puff at the time, you came away with new information about him there, and people started making their own decisions about him. But the only thing I will say is this. I feel, and I will say it again, that for the prosecution, they really flubbed that. Because if you're trying to get him for essentially what he did to Cassie, you should have got Cassie to make sure that she did not take any type of money from Puff. Don't try to take money from him, because I know she was going to sue him for something, and Puff ended up paying her out, and then ultimately ended up getting snapped up by the feds. Then the feds should have tried to get to Cassie and say, hey, we're trying to get him for this, but if you don't take the money, we can get him extra for what he did to you for beating you up. But that didn't happen. Ultimately, what we got was the prosecution just constantly leaning on the fact that Puff had sexual escapades with Cassie, and how his sexual escapades were out of the ordinary from a lot of people. And where, again, that's not a crime. It's not a crime to have extraordinary type of escapades with a willing participant and other willing participants. It's not. But for that to be exposed in the manner in which it was, it just makes everybody look at you differently and be like, yo, that boy was a freak. But again, that's not a crime. But they end up locking him up, I feel, because the Cassie video came out, for 50 months, and that's all they could technically do. And again, he'll be out sooner than a lot of people expect. But again, that was another big thing that came out this year. Is there anything else that happened this year that was really big and important? I mean, the New Orleans inmates that ran I'm not going to say wild, because that was seeing that they caused chaos, but they were running freely for some time, where I believe it was 12 people that were out. 11 got captured almost instantly, while the last one, he was free for some months. He ultimately ended up getting captured. So all of them are now back inside prison in New Orleans, I believe. I'm not going to end the show yet without giving a big highlight for me in the music world was the album Clips put out, Let God Sort 'Em Out. First and foremost, that is a nice album title. Let God Sort 'Em Out. That is a sweet album title. But the album itself constantly got replayed by me. It will get replayed by me to this day, because I like that album a lot. I truly, truly do. And I hope that they win some Grammys this upcoming Grammy season, because I know they're nominated for some. I got to go back to Tyler, the Creator's Don't Tap the Glass. At first, I dig some of the songs, but that whole album, not really for me. But hearing some of the songs again now, when I'm just flicking through videos and I can hear the song, or it might pop up somewhere else, I'm like, oh snap, that's off the Don't Tap the Glass. Oh snap, I'm kind of digging that. So I gotta replay that album back, and I'm pretty sure I'm more than likely gonna like that whole album now. Because again, going into it, thought it was gonna be rap, but didn't really get all that. It was more what was it? More upbeat type of music there. So yeah, I gotta go back to that. But from the songs I did hear from flicking from videos, again, that's another one that I enjoyed. There's other albums right now that's probably out there right now that I'm not mentioning, but just 2025 was a bizarre year, at least in politics, but everything else, I'll say pretty solid. I hope that 2026 will be better. I'm hoping that 2026 will be better for the American people, and also not just the American people. I'm talking about people that are afraid for their life, because you don't know what's going to happen. If you are not, how do I say this correctly? If you are a Latino looking, if you are a Middle Eastern looking, if you are, and I'm thinking they're going to expand this, if you are someone that might even be black, and I'm talking about, they kind of want to say Somalian black and all that. If you are in those bubbles, you might get popped for ICE going into in the year 2026. I think they're going to try to expand their horizon if they already do not disband ICE in 2026. And I think they're looking to try to get more people out of the United States, which I'm hoping that's not the case. But again, this regime and the people that's backing it is just very, very weird. We all see it, and we all are saying it, but it's just very, very weird how it's happening, and the government really isn't doing something about it. They kind of just standing off to the side and just like allowing it. But it is what it is with that. But I'm hoping that 2026 will be better for the American people. I'm hoping that it'll be better for the people around the world as well, because Japan and the islands, they got hit a lot this year with not national, but just like nature tragedies, like the hurricanes, the tsunamis, earthquakes, all that hit Japan and the islands. And I mean, I'm not forgetting of that. Again, Russia and Ukraine, people over there getting smacked up over there. I'm hoping that the world would just be better than it was in 2025 going into 2026. That's what I'm hoping for. And I'm hoping that everyone would just be on their very best as we are closing out 2025. That's what I'm hoping for. But we shall see. Now, with that, it is now time for me to get you guys out of here. I would like to thank everybody for tuning into today's episode of the My 2 Cents podcast, presented by and hosted by G2. I would like to thank all the podcast sites for having me on, whether it be Apple, Amazon, Podbean, Spotify, iHeart. I would like to thank all the podcasting sites, because without them, I won't be able to get this podcast out to you guys, the downloaders and listeners. So I'd like to thank them. But also, once again, I would like to thank you guys, the downloaders and listeners of the podcast, because you could be doing anything else and listening to anybody else, but you decide to listen to me, and I truly do appreciate that. That does not go unnoticed, because again, I'm just one guy that you guys decide to listen to, talk about the news, and give his opinions on it, and I do appreciate that, whether it be inside your car, inside your headphones, inside your home, outside your home. I appreciate that so much. And again, it does not go unnoticed, so I would like to say thank you all sincerely. Now, with that, always remember,
I love you, I love you, I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you.
I do love you all. That is not a gimmick. I want everyone, as we close out 2025, to say a couple prayers as we are closing out. Today, say a prayer. Tomorrow, say a prayer. Every single day as we go out and close out 2025, say a prayer. Even if you're not religious, you don't have to say a prayer. Just say a positive affirmation as we are leaving out 2025. Because again, I want people to leave 2025 on a positive note instead of a negative note, and as we enter 2026. So please do that, okay? And please do not be a dick Please try to be kind and courteous to everyone that you do come across, because you have no idea what they are dealing with or have been dealing with this whole year. And again, I want people to not self-transition. I want people to see another day and take another breath. So please try to be kind and courteous as much as you can, all right? Now, with that said, I do want to let everyone know I will be back once again. If that episode isn't already up, it will be up later today, the AEW World's End Review. If it's not up today, it'll be up tomorrow, because AEW had their pay-per-view last night. So look forward to that if you happen to watch or listen to professional wrestling. There's that. And I will be back Wednesday with your midweek breakdown episode, which will be the final episode of 2025. And then, as per usual, going into 2026, I'll be back with another wrestling episode on the first day of January 1st, 2026. I'll be back with my usual wrestling highlights of the week on Saturday, and next Sunday I'll be back with my usual news-related My 2 Cents podcast episode. So that's the schedule for this upcoming week. So I just want to keep you guys up to date. Now, with that being said, this has been the My 2 Cents podcast, presented by and hosted by G2. He is I am him. This is a goodbye. This is until you hear from the sweet sounding voice again. And with all that being said, Kanye, could you please take these people home?
I'm tired, you tired, Jesus wept.